A very good afternoon to all. I, Malya Gidwani, Assistant Professor in Information Technology Department, welcomes you all for Day 3, Session 2 of AICT IST sponsor online refresh program on developing secure IoT application. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, Dr. Bhushan Jadhav sir. He is going to talk about IoT and cloud security. Sir has completed his PhD on topic cloud computing and big data analytics from Mumbai University. Currently, he is working in Thadumul Sahani Engineering College. Sir has overall 12 years of experience in the field of research and execution. He has published various research papers in reputed national, international journals and conference. Sir has have also conducted more than 80 plus hands-on workshops on various topics. I am very sure that this session will be very useful session for all of us. Now I am requesting our speaker, please take over and start the session. Over to you,
Uh,
sir.
yeah. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes, sir.
So I'm not enabling my camera because I have a little bit bandwidth issue. So
Okay.
that so if you want, I can enable it,
Yes,
but in between, huh?
yes, sir, it's okay.
I enabled
Chetan
it.
sir, Smita ma'am, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So I'm
Yeah.
sharing my screen here.
Yes, sir. You are visible and you are audible also.
Yeah. Just a
Okay, sir.
minute.
Yeah,
I'm
continue.
sharing my
Thank
screen.
you.
Is my screen is visible, sir? Security, right? And today I'm going to talk about the IoT and the cloud security, right? So as you know, cloud computing has basically evolved in 2009, and it is basically jumped to the that means at a very high level, right? Because nowadays, for every application, we think about the cloud, right? So basically, cloud is meant for providing you the huge amount of resources for your applications, right? So as you know, in the earlier days, we used to run the applications on the in-house servers, right? And nowadays it has jumped to the cloud because we get everything readily available. We get the infrastructure, we get the operating system, we get the servers, everything readily available. And it basically it is cost effective, right? So it basically charge you what you use. If you use it for 1 hour, just pay for 1 hour and just leave it, right? So that's why cloud has jumped at very high level, right? So my today's talk is about IoT and the cloud security. That means how IoT can be leveraged into the cloud and what are the security parameters. So I'm going to run the theory, but I am more interested in showing you the practical part. That means I want to show you how to do the, that means how to manage the IoT in the Amazon Web Services platform, right? So shall I start, ma'am? Yes. So
Yes, sir. Yes.
yeah. So I'm just a minute. I'm just going on to this slide. Yeah. So is it visible now? So as
Yes.
I hope you already have covered the introduction to the IoT. So IoT is the Internet of Thing, which basically involves some sensors and the connected devices, right? Which are basically meant for sending the signals to a controller, and then the processing happens, right? And in between, the communication happens through the network, right? So Internet of Thing means what? The nowadays the sensors or the your controllers, everything are placed at the remote side, and remotely you can manage them, right? That is the part, that is basically a concept of the IoT. So it has an interconnection of people, things. That is the standard definition of the IoT, right? And this is what the world of IoT, where we have the home, we use IoT at home automation, then the transport system where we have the GPS system, which basically GPS system, that means your mobile device has a sensor that basically transmit the signal to the transportation system where you can locate your vehicles and all, right? So these are the standardized examples, right? Home automation is there, transport is there, community communication is there, CCTV surveillance, retail marketing, business intelligence applications, smart metering, then factory outlet, right? That means material management through the IoT sensors, right? Then these are the national project where we can use the IoT in the smart grids. We use IoT for the remote monitoring, as well as the defense applications are there. So right now the IoT has jumped to the very high level, and it has been used in most of the applications which are basically used widely, right? Right, because we basically, because of IoT, we can basically control, or we can do the activities remotely, right? And basically we can do it this, you can see the tagline here: anytime, anything, and anywhere, right? So you can access your devices, you can perform your activities at any time, on anything, from anywhere, right? Because it is available over the internet. and as you know, internet is globally available, right? So these are the traditions. So we have, I hope you might have covered this basic part. I'm just jumping to the next slides because I'm more interested in showing you the demonstration, right? So this is what the history is. In 1990, the Kevin Aston has coined the term called as an Internet of Thing, right? It was there earlier also, but he has basically termed that he has named the that technology as an Internet of Thing, right? So it has gained momentum in 2011, right? So from 2011 it has jumped, and basically right now it is at top level, right? So IoT is an umbrella term, refers to the connecting the physical and the digital component, right? So we have the physical devices, so we convert them into we can connect the IoT sensors into them, and we can basically control them using the signals, digital signals, right? So applications also you might be knowing. So different types of application, consumer IoT applications. The examples are the home appliances, or the voice assistance for the elderly, or the light fixtures. Then we have the commercial IoT, the IoT which is used in the commercial applications. The commercial applications could be healthcare applications, where we have the wearable devices. So through wearable devices, the sensors captures the reading and send to the hospital. If the reading is beyond the threshold, then it will automatically contact to the ambulance. So those kinds of things are there in the healthcare IoT. Then the transportation industry also uses the commercial IoT, right? For example, the in the Ola, when we book a Ola, we get the actual location of the car, right? GPS location of the car. So everything is automated. So automation is the part of the IoT, right? And it is compatible with the almost all the real time, all the emerging technologies, right? So we have the smart pacemakers, monitoring systems, to vehicle communication. These are the commercial IoTs which are used in the commercial world, right? Then we have IIoT, that means the industry. Then the production environment also, now IoT is become popular in the production also. So the examples of the industrial IoT are the digital control system, statistical evolution, or the smart agriculture, or the industrial big data analytics. Then we have the infrastructure IoT, where we monitor and control the infrastructure through the infrastructure sensors. So the examples of infrastructure IoTs are the management systems, or the infrastructure sensors, or the user-friendly applications, right? So these are the five basic types of the IoT. And the last one, it is being used in military also. So military things, it is also called as an IOMT, right? That means the IoT for the military, or it is called military things, IOMT, right? So it basically composed of the application which uses a robot for the surveillance, or it basically uses a human variable biometric for the combat, right? So these are the five types of the IoT application. There are so many applications right now. IoT is used in many of the almost all types of applications, but these are the standardized application where IoT is used. I'm going little fast because this part has already been covered in the initial lectures. Right. So IoT and the pandemic, as you know, because of the pandemic, it becomes basically essential to monitor everything remotely from the home, right? Like a work from home. So that's why during the pandemic, this time the corona pandemic, the IoT has basically expanded beyond the manufacturing line. Nowadays, everything is basically, most of the industrial production lines also work onto the IoT, and the basically production manager can sit at the remote location and can basically monitor as well as control the production of the items and all, right? Now this is what the Tata Communications IoT business search. You can see in the September 1990, the turnover of the Tata Communication related to was the 1,87,000, right? And it has jumped to this 40% jump has taken. And right now, the in September 2020, it has jumped to the 302,527, 3,02,527 dollars, right? And I'll go to the risk, right? So different types of risk associated with this. So basically, IoT is there. It is publicly available. So whichever platform is publicly available is vulnerable to the security, right? So we need to think of. So whenever we think of the security, we must think about the risk. What are the risks associated with that particular technology? So IoT is also vulnerable to many types of risk, and those risks must be considered while securing the IoT applications. So if you do not point out the risk, then it may basically make the big business impact, or may make the business loss, right? So different types of risk associated with IoT are, first one is the hard coded password, right? So short password, simple password, guessable passwords. If you put this type of application, this type of, if you apply these types of applications to your this type of password to your application, which are guessable, so which may put your IoT, that means your entire platform onto the risk, right? So very first, a risk is related to the password, weak or guessable password. So if you basically assign a weak or the guessable password to your IoT application, so it becomes easy for hackers to guess it using various password recognition tools, and they can guess it, and they can basically get a control over entire IoT application. So this is what the first risk is. Now second risk is insecure network services. So as you know, we have basically many of the, during this pandemic, if you would see, many of the services becomes free, like a Zoom platform. Earlier Zoom was free, but what they did in between, you might have heard about the attack happened over the Zoom network, right? So basically, the Zoom runs their data center entirely from the China, right? So basically, insecure network services means what? These, if you will not select the, if you will not select these service provider, which are basically a trusted service provider, so which may put your application, your entire application or entire technology onto our entire production environment into the risk, right? So if you select the insecure or the unneeded network services, if you use those services for accessing the network, so for example, as you know, nowadays you may find the Wi-Fi network in the hotels, or you may find the Wi-Fi network in the public places. If you use such public places wala internet services, so it may put your application, if you do the if you do the transaction over such kind of public network, it will put your particular particular transaction site or the your banking website into the what do we say, it may put your transaction site into the risk, right? Risk means what? Any hacker, if any hacker is continuously monitoring your device, and if you by mistake you connect to the unsecure network, so you may try to basically put an make an attack to your device and can steal the data. So insecure or the unneeded network is another risk related to the IoT. So these are the general risks which are applicable to other applications as well, not only the IoT. So first is weak passwords or the insecure network services. Third one would be insecure ecosystem interface, right? So if you use the external interfaces that connect to the devices, the connection may compromise the device, right? So for example, if you are using a system and it is asking to update the things, and if the updates are from the intended service provider, so it may be downloaded. But if you download the same update for the other websites, third party websites, so which may basically put your device into the risk. So it may put means what, sometime before my system has basically had a ransomware attack. So why it was happened? Because I just downloaded the drive partition drive software from the Google sites, right? Earlier it was showing from the legitimate site, but by mistake I found the another website where the size of the file was very less. So I downloaded that, I installed that, and after installation, when I had restarted my computer, it got basically my all the files and my all the drives got encrypted. So that is what the ransomware attack. So if you basically use the insecure ecosystem interfaces, which may put your application onto the risk, right? Then next one, lack of the update mechanism, which is what I was telling. So you must update the security updates. So whenever you are using the Windows system, you must update the system with the, you must update the Windows secure updates, right? So when you update it, it will basically makes your connection everything secure, right? So so lack of security update mechanism means what? Such as the encrypted data moving from outward to the inward. That means when you update when you basically download the security updates from the Microsoft site, so basically it basically installs the different types of data filters, which basically monitors your in and out data from the LAN interface, as an LAN interface, right? So each and every packet, it basically analyze it, and if it's a legitimate packet, it's a safe packet, then only it gets downloaded. Otherwise, will show you will not be downloaded, and will show you the risk. Will show you in the defender risk section, right? So lack of secure update mechanisms, such as the unencrypted data moving from outward sources toward the device, or the poor security monitoring, right? So these are the generalized risk associated with any kind of application, not only the IoT, right? Use of the insecure or the outdated components, right? The third party components, if you download the third party components without a scanning for virus, so it may have a vulnerabilities, and those vulnerabilities may basically down your system, right? Which may make a big business loss, or which may make the downwards of your system, right? Insufficient privacy protection, so failure to protect the privacy information which is stored onto the devices, right? I'll just go a little bit fast because these are the generalized thing associated with the IoT risk. Then the insecure data transfer, right? If you are not using the P2P channel for sending the data, right? That is the unencrypted channel, which may put your system onto the risk. You must use. So these are what the solutions is. So you must. So I can say these are the risk and the remedies are there itself. That means what, if you want to protect your IO application, so you must consider the privacy first. You must consider the secure data transfer. You must consider the secure. You must make sure that you have installed the security updates from the operating system provider. You must have provided the secure ecosystem interfaces. You have used. You must use the secure network services. Do not trust onto the public network. You, if you want to do the any transactional transactional work, so in the transactional work you must use the secure network services. You must assign the hard coded password which are not guessable, right? So these are the remedy for this risk only, right? And this, all these things we have to consider while designing an IoT application, right? Then we have the insufficient privacy. We have seen that insecure data transfer, lack of device management, right? So sometimes if you see Microsoft Teams we are using, so when we install a team, it asks you to basically give a control of your computer to your organization, right? So if you give if you give the control of your computer to the organization, so the organization, the system administrator gets an control over your account as well as your system, right? So what happens in that case, if your system administrator's account gets compromised, right? Then what will happen? The attacker will get control over all the accounts which are there in the administrator's account, right? And he can, and that person, that is the intruder, can do anything with your accounts, right? He can use it for the he can use your account for basically copying your data, deleting data, or he may use it for the wrong purpose also, right? So that's why the lack of device management, you must basically while giving a control of your application, you must basically think of twice to give it the party to the administrator. Then insecure default settings are there. So these are generalized risk associated with the IoT, right? Lack of physical hardening. Now next, so what are the security? So as you know that IoT security comes when, that means when the IoT applications are designed, the most of the application itself has a security, right? We can't say every IoT application is basically vulnerable to the attacks, but most of the built-in security things are there in the IoT itself, in the Raspberry Pi as well as in the Raspberry Pi, right? So let us see the how traditional IoT IT security was there, and how IoT security is being placed, right? So traditionally the add-on security was used for protecting the applications. Now basically if you use the IoT devices, the IoT devices has the built-in security, right? The complex algorithms were used for securing the IoT securities like RSA, SHA and all. But in the IoT security, we have the light-weighted algorithm, because these are what the comparison between the security, traditionally how the security was placed, and because of intervention of IoT technologies, how the security is been improved, right? So add-on security was there in the traditional, because of the IoT devices, the security has increased, and because it has the built-in security things, it has the complex. Earlier, the traditionally complex algorithms were used. Nowadays, we have the light-weighted algorithms built into the IoT, right? Then user control is basically is a so in traditionally the IT security basically used to be done manually by the administrator, but because of the IoT, right? So it has been basically it performs automatically, right? Then we have the small heterogeneity in the IoT security. Here we have the large heterogeneity, right? Then in IoT security we have the many security guard. Here we have the few security guards, right? And basically IT security basically placed in the closed environment. IoT is basically is in the open. Why open? Because through the internet, through IoT applications, that means we access the IoT application through the browser, and we basically connect to the application through the internet. So internet means what? You need not have to be sit into the premises of your organization, right? So you can be anywhere, from where you can basically open your application and can manage the security. So it basically supports an open environment in the public network as well as the closed environment in the private network as well, right? Then the then application. So this is what the IoT layers for the security, right? The physical layer is there, MAC address is there, MAC has the LL. So data link layer has the MAC and the LLC, right? Used by these COAP and the HTTP as well. So you can implement the security for IoT. The traditional IT security, basically we used to run the IT application on the HTTP protocol on the web, right? But all of the but IoT application runs on the COAP protocol, right? So here we have the physical layer is same, MAC is same, IPsec is same. So only basically only difference here is the TLS, the transport layer system. That means the TLS protocol is used as a transport layer to secure your application, right? So because of TLS, we are able to use the HTTPS nowadays, right? While in the IoT we used to use this DTLS, right? Distributed TLS protocol, right? Transport level security protocols for securing the applications. Then resources. So when we implement the IoT security, we need a very limited resources. We basically used to use the embedded devices with the real-time operating system, right? As well as the traditional system, we do not have to use the traditional security solutions, as the security solutions are there built in into the IoT devices, right? And then security perimeters are the located outside the security perimeter, subject to the physical attacks. And basically it is subject to the parametric proximity attacks, right? So these are the parameters, right? These are the security parameters used in the IoT world, right? Physical and the proximity attacks. So I'll quickly go ahead, right? These are the use cases you might have already done, right? Seen in the other part. I'm much more interested in. So these are the, just see the some of the attacks, right? So the attack happened over the IoT. First attack was happened over the IoT devices in 2010. The name of the attack was the Stuxnet, right? And it was the one type of attack, right? The PLC in the nuclear plant, right? And then we have the because of this Stuxnet attack, the 2.5 million devices were affected, because the controller was basically the main controller was attacked by the hackers, right? And it was the one type of attack, because as you know, when you run the IoT application, the application runs over the internet. That means through the browser. So there is an basically there is a, along with the hardware, there is a applications also, right? Software application, and software applications are vulnerable, right? So if you basically bound on the security of those applications, still you may find some weaknesses in some weaknesses over there. And the hacker used to use those weaknesses to attack the devices, right? Then second attack was happened in the 2014, which was the Heartbleed attack, basically, which was happened because of the TLS exploit, transport layer security exploit, and which has exposed the encrypted data. Because basically TLS we used to use for encrypting the data, right? It is basically TLS is used for creating end-to-end channel between the transmitter and the receiver, and basically the entire channel was exposed because of the Heartbleed attack, right? And the attack was happened because of the buffer overflow. The whole channel got basically flooded using the buffer overflow, and because of the flooding, the confidential data got exposed, and the entire system was affected, right? And because of that and because of the Heartbleed attack, the 2000K devices were affected, right? So that's why the security of IoT is very important. The third attack was happened in the 2016, which was a Mirai attack, right? And it was happened because of the password, basically because of the weaker password, right? Password exploit, right? And the password exploit also happened with the help of the DDoS and the Wireshark. He has used the DDoS attack, and through the Wireshark, he has compromised the server and basically gained the password of the system, right? And in Mirai attack also, 2.5 million devices got affected. And as we all know, the ransomware attack, which was a very, very, very popular attack, right? Which was happened in May 2017, right? And the name of the attack was the WannaCry attack, right? Basically, what WannaCry do, basically it once it gains the access to your system, it basically encrypt each and every file of your drive on your drive. Every file, every directory gets encrypted, and you want to decrypt it. To gain a decryption key, you need to basically, they basically send you the send you one once you basically once they encrypt entire directories or entire files or entire drives, they basically send you one note, and in that note they mention you just pay the XYZ amount, and then only will provide you the decryption key, and then will decrypt your data. That means the attack was basically intended to gain the money from the users, right? So many banks and financial institutions got basically got affected by the WannaCry, right? This was one of the biggest attack happened onto the IoT devices, right? And basically, it was a Netrocom exploiting the SMB server messaging block, and the it used to encrypt the user's data using the ransomware. So ransomware is basically meant for is a virus, basically, which is malware, which basically encrypt the data from from your hard drive, which your file it gets. So it basically goes to the Windows directory. From Windows directory, it gets the list of files, directories, everything, and it basically start encrypting each and every file, right? So once you open your file, you won't see anything. You will basically see the different extensions of the files, but won't be able to open your files. It won't show you. It will show you a replica of your original files, but won't be able to access it, right? And because of the WannaCry also 3000K devices got affected. Then we had the Blueborn attack, which has happened in September 2017, which was happened due to the penetration of the Bluetooth devices. So as you know, most of the time we use we many of us used to use the Bluetooth headphones, right? So sometimes what happens if the range of the Bluetooth goes off, your headphones and your mobile goes off. So in that moment, your the attacker basically tries to penetrate your Bluetooth device, and once he gains the access to your system, he may basically steal your data. And because of this Blueborn attack, the 8.2 billion devices got affected. Devices means what? The mobile devices got affected due to it. Then in 2017, crack attack had come, right, which was happened due to the Wi-Fi exploit, wireless policy. So what had happened, because of this crack attack, the whichever devices were connected to that particular hotspot got compromised, and that hacker got basically access to all the devices connected to the particular connected to the particular access point, right? So a lot of Wi-Fi devices got compromised due to the crack. Then the similar to that, in January 2018, the meltdown test factories had come, and then it was basically attack basically used to target the processor which is executing the processes, right, and compromise the processes as well as the memory access mechanisms. So what are the solutions for this problem? So you have the strong authentication and authorization mechanism. We can have the secure boot, because nowadays what happens, the attacker tries to get the access to the MBR, master boot record, and through a master boot record, he or she may tries to basically exploit your bootable devices. So secure boot is very much required in terms of IoT, right? Because IoT means what? Because most of the IoT devices are basically runs the Linux based application. That means runs the Linux operating system, right? So if an attacker get access to your inode or the root node, he may get compromised your entire devices. So you must have a secure boot mechanism. You must have the stronger authentication. You must have the secured update. So you must periodically update the security. You must periodically update the security update from your operating system provider. Like in Windows, we have the Defender, which automatically downloads the security updates by every week. We have the embedded firewalls, right? We must install the embedded firewall. So what is embedded firewall? So basically firewalls are used, most of the time firewalls are used for the packet filtering. So what is packet filtering? So basically firewall ensures that the packet is coming from the legitimate device. So you may basically lease the legitimate IP addresses into the firewall, right? And if the packet is so firewall, basically in the firewall you can create the list of the block addresses. So if a particular packet is coming from the block address of the third party public network, it immediately discard that packet, won't allow that packet to come inside the network. And it will save, but that means it is used to save all the devices which are connected in the internal organization. So that's why every organization nowadays has to have the embedded firewalls. So these embedded firewalls are responsible for packet filtering, right? And then policy management is there, right? ACL is there, IAM is there, sir. Everything is there built in into the firewall. That's why embedded firewalls are are very much important, or important in the IoT world, right? Then we have the secure communication. then data encryption, right? You must use the secure communication. Secure communication means what? So while accessing the organization's application, you must make sure that you are using the secure Wi-Fi connection. You must use the secure Wi-Fi connection or secure internet connection. If the connection is secure, then only you should try. Otherwise, if you use the public network, then your devices may get compromised, and they which may result into the huge business loss or the financial loss. Then the data encryption is very much important. So whatever data is going from the organization to outside network, or whatever data is coming from outside network to the inside, so everything should be encrypted. It should run. That means the data should flow from the encrypted P2P channel, point to point channel, right? And to run a data over the P2P channel, you can either use a PPOE or the PPOA, point to point protocol over the Ethernet, or point to point protocol over the ATM network. So whichever so ATM network is basically much more secure to flow the data than the traditional Ethernet network. So you always try to have the PPOA connection between the two devices. That means the your that means the outside device as well as the inside device. You must have the firmware updates, right? So as we know, firmware is nothing but every device nowadays has a processor. For example, switches, routers, firewalls, right? Every device has to have the processors, and every device has a memory. Every device have the flash storage, right? So basically this devices runs by the operating system, right? Lightweight operating systems are there. Like in Cisco, we have the Cisco IOS, right? So intranet operating system, intranetwork operating system. So likewise, every device has the operating system. So that operating system basically is run by the firmware. And basically, if you update the firmware periodically, it will make your application much more secure. Otherwise, if you do not update the firmware, then if you are running the firmware on the firmware with the older updates, then which may compromise the firmware access, right? So that's why you must have this secure firmware access into all the devices, and you must have the security monitoring and management thing like a NAGOS, right? NAGOS is there, IBM Splunk is there. So those kind of solution must be there inside your organization, because what a NAGOS and IBM Splunk does. So basically, NAGOS, as you know, NAGOS is the open source network monitoring or network infrastructure monitoring tool. So basically what it does, it basically, once you connect your NAGOS server to your network, it scans all the devices which are connected to your particular network. So those devices, including your mobile devices, your access points, your Wi-Fi routers, switches, managed switches, unmanaged switches, firewalls, each and every device, it basically depict into the NAGOS server. And it basically periodically check the status of each and every device by sending an TTL signal, time to leave signal. If the TTL is reachable, then it shows you that the device is active, right? If TTL is not reachable, then at that point you can say that device is inactive. It will show you that in the different color, that means green for the active and red for the inactive. So if that device is basically inactive, then immediately you can immediately trace out that device, and will basically do the fault tolerance with that particular device, right? And this can be done using this centralized network monitoring tool, right? So security monitoring and management means what? You must have the security monitoring tool like a NAGOS or the IBM Splunk to basically secure your devices, right? Because that NAGOS is also basically it also basically checks the firmwares of all the devices. If any firmware is a downgraded, then it asks you to update it immediately. It also check the communication type. That means what type of communication, underlying communication type you are using, whether you are using a public network or private network, right? And then what is the percentage of stability with that network, that is also been scanned by the NAGOS, right? It also has the NAGOS. When you see when you install the NAGOS, it basically comes with the built-in software firewall also, right? So built-in software firewall means what? You can monitor each and every packet which is coming from outside network to your network using the NAGOS. So these are what the remedy for protecting the IoT devices. If you really want to protect the IoT devices or the IoT network, you must physically basically provide the strong authentication mechanism. You must provide the secure boot, security updates, embedded firewalls, then the secure communication, data encryption. These are the factors which you need to consider while securing the different types of devices. You can see this is what the multi types of that means the multiple phases of security. right? So basically when you run the when you have the IoT device, right? And what happens, suppose you want to, so this is what the process of running the bootloader, right? So in the first stage you basically load the bootloader, then it checks the signature and then check the crypto key. In the second phase it again check by the second stage bootloader. So I mean to say that whenever you install the devices, that means you must have the multi-stage bootloaders to ensure that you are running the accurate copy of your firmware into the memory, right? And finally here we have the applications, which if any of the application has the malicious code, it can immediately send the signal to the operating system will inform to the bootloader, and bootloader will check the signature key into the first loader. If the signature is matching, then we'll provide the crypto key. The crypto key is validated by the second bootloader, and that same crypto key is sent to the operating system. It will again validate. If the crypto key is perfect, then only it will allow you to open the application and run it, right? So secure would basically ensure that hackers are unable to install any type of malicious code, because whenever you want to install the malicious code, whenever you want to install any application into the IoT device, so if you have the system like this, so for every installation it will check the signature, and if the signature is matching with, or if signature is legitimate matched by the bootloader, then it basically send the crypto key, and by using the crypto key the application gets installed. That means there is a no chance for hackers to install any malicious code into the IoT device, right? What should be the properties of highly secure devices? So 7 properties are there for the highly security devices. 7 properties. Very first property is a hardware roof of trust, right? Your hardware should be the, basically you must go for the trusted vendors. You must purchase the hardware from the trusted vendors, or of the trusted brands, instead of purchasing the if you go for the economical brand, then it may basically has it may put the device into the risk. You must have the defense in the depth. You must have the small trusted computing at the base, and then you must have the dynamic compartment for each and every base. Then you should have the certificate based authentication for every communication, certificate based. That's when IoT application we runs over the internet. Internet are nothing but, the internet means what? It basically runs on website. So you can run a website on HTTPS or the HTTP, right? Using protocol Hypertext Transport Protocol, which is the traditional protocol, which is most vulnerable protocol in the world. And second is the HTTPS, that is a secure HTTP, which runs at the layer number 5, transport layer, by means of TLS, transport layer security. And basically when you use the TLS, it has to basically send data, end-to-end data, through the through a encrypted channel, And when we use the TLS, so TLS often comes with the certificate based authentication. So what is certificate based authentication? So whenever you open any website, right? So if you are opening any website, the browser basically asks you to import the certificate provided by the certificate provider. So basically the organization who has a website, who wants to give access to their website to their customers, they basically appoint one certificate authority, and that certificate authority creates a different types of certificates for the users. So if you have a certificate, if you have a valid certificate of that particular website, then only you are allowed to access that website. If you do not have a certificate of that particular website, you won't be allowed to access it. So certificate based authentication is very important, or much needed in the IoT world. Then we have the failure reporting, right? So automated failure reporting must be there in the IoT, and then renewable security also takes an important part in the IoT security. Now the important part comes, cloud and the IoT security, right? So before that, let us see these two different entities are there, cloud and the IoT. Two different entities are there. Let us understand one by one. So very first, cloud computing, right? So what is cloud computing? So cloud computing basically has a basically use for providing the different computation devices, right? At any time on any device, right? So for example, suppose I want to run an application, and suppose that application requires an 12 GB of RAM, right? And suppose I have a physical computer which has, suppose, 1 GB of RAM. So I can't run that application in my computer because my computer has only 1 GB RAM. So what I can do, I can go to the cloud computing platform. I'll create a virtual machine with the size of 12 GB, and I can deploy my application on that particular virtual machine. So what is cloud computing? So cloud computing is nothing but dynamic delivery. Dynamic means what? Dynamic means so dynamically means at any time you can access, you will get access to your applications. So cloud computing is a dynamic delivery of IT resources, IT resources as a service over the internet, right? Dynamic delivery of IT resources as a service over the internet. So what happens in the cloud computing? So in the cloud computing, the cloud service providers are there who provide you the services. So they provide you different services, like basically whatever thing they deliver to you is called as a service. Whatever thing the service provider delivers to you is called as a service. For example, I want a database from the cloud, so it is called as a database as a service. Suppose I want storage from the cloud, so it is called storage as a service. Suppose I want security from the cloud. Nowadays, the security as a service is also there. So security as a service provides you the different security solutions for your application. So I just want a security model from the cloud. So it is called security as a service. Suppose I want only I want to run a website, but I do not want to purchase any platform, so I can go for platform as a service, right? I want a particular software. For example, I want to run on to the SAP. As you know, SAP is very expensive software, ERP software. So if I want to use a SAP, I'll not purchase it. What I'll do, I'll go to the cloud computing service provider's website, and there I'll just take an instance of the just buy the instance of the SAP, and the instance buying can be a pay per use. Pay per use means what? Just pay what you use. If you use a SAP for 1 hour, just pay 50 rupees. If you use a SAP for 5 hours, pay 250 rupees. So they have different plans like a subscription plans or the pay per use plan. So pay per use means what? Pay per minute, pay per second, or pay per hour plans are there, right? So if you use it for, so nowadays every cloud computing company service provider used to provide the services based on the pay per second. If you use for 30 seconds, just pay for 30 seconds. If you use for 5 hours and 30 seconds, pay for 5 hours and 30 seconds likewise, right? And basically the cloud computing, what cloud computing has, so the has cloud service provider has aggregation of computing devices, storage devices, and the networking devices. They have the aggregation. Aggregation means what? They have the collection of multiple servers which has the processing or the compute devices. The compute devices are like a CPU and the memory. They have the aggregation of compute devices, they have the aggregation of storage devices, and they have the aggregation of network devices, right? And basically they create a resource pool from that. They create a resource pool from that. So they used to use the horizontal scaling for that purpose, horizontal scaling, right? So what it does, so suppose this cloud service provider has 4 servers, and suppose every server has 4 GB of RAM. Every server has 4 GB of RAM. So ultimately their resource pool will have 16 GB of memory, right? Ultimately their resource pool will have 16 GB of memory. Suppose a customer like me want to run an application, run an application which requires a 12 GB of RAM. So what I'll do, I'll just go to the cloud service provider's website, and I'll just subscribe, or I'll just buy that particular 12 GB of RAM from the cloud service provider. So when I'll buy that 12 GB of RAM from cloud service provider, the RAM will get basically provided through 4 servers. So we basically never comes to know how many servers they have and how many RAMs or how many CPUs they have. So nowadays you can see the Amazon Web Service is basically capable of delivering up to 10 terabytes of RAM, 5 to 10 terabytes. Terabytes. I'm talking about terabytes. So they are basically nowadays delivers the 5 to 10 terabytes of RAM to the application. So if you are running a scientific application like a NASA, and suppose it requires a huge amount of memory, huge amount of storage, huge amount of processing power, and suppose that processing power cannot be fulfilled using the physical devices, then in that moment, at that time, we basically opt the cloud. We opt the cloud because cloud has unlimited devices, unlimited compute devices, unlimited storage devices, and unlimited network devices. And they basically provide or fulfill your requirement through the resource pool. They have the resource pool, and that from that pool they fulfill your requirement, right? So what are the advantages of cloud, right? So very first advantage of cloud is you need not have to buy anything, right? Everything is readily available. Like a buffet dinner, you just take a plate, whatever you want, you just take into your plate and just have it, right? So like a buffet here in the cloud also, we have everything is readily available, and you have to decide what you want, right? For example, as I said, I want to run a website, right? I want to run a website, And today, suppose I have only 100 customers. So I'll just go to the cloud computing platform. I'll select the platform as service solution and will create a website over there. And when I create a website over there, I just have to pay for I just have to pay for the, just a minute, just give me a second. Sorry. So I just have to pay for the, I just have to pay for whatever I have used. So if I use the compute and the storage space for my website for 1 hour, I just have to pay for 1 hour. And the biggest beauty of cloud is it is a scalable in nature. It is scalable in nature. So what scalable means? Scalable means what? Suppose my application is used by suppose 100 customers today. All of a sudden tomorrow my customer got rise from 100 to suppose 10,000. So in the physical environment, if I have a computer and suppose if I have 100 users quota in that, so I can't within a fraction of that means I can't, that means to make the servers capable, I need to install one or two servers more, which can capable to fulfill the requirement of 10,000 users. So what is the biggest benefit of cloud? So cloud is scalable in nature. So today, if you have 100 users and suppose 100 users are basically consuming 1 GB of RAM and suppose one virtual CPU, tomorrow all of a sudden suppose they rise to 10,000 and suppose the 10,000 user requires up to suppose 100 GB of RAM and suppose they require the 20 CPUs, all of a sudden that means through auto scaling mechanisms in the cloud, the automatically the resources get scaled to the 100 GB of RAM and 20 virtual CPU, right? And when, so basically beauty of cloud is it is auto scalable in nature. Auto scalable means what? As per the demand, it basically increases the resource capability, and if there is no demand, then it decreases the resource capability. So based on the fluctuation, it generates the bill. So what IT companies nowadays do, right? So now IT industries now used to use the hybrid clouds, right? Hybrid means what? Hybrid is the combination of private and the public. So private means what? In-house cloud, and public means what? The cloud computing services which are available over the internet. And the public cloud service providers are the popular public cloud service providers are Amazon Web Services, that is called AWS, which is one of the biggest cloud in the world. This 70% of cloud business is basically acquired by only AWS itself, right? Then at the second position, the Microsoft Azure comes, right? At the third position, the Google Cloud Platform, that is called GCP, comes. At the fourth position, the IBM Watson comes, right? IBM Bluemix comes, right? So likewise, there are different cloud service providers available in the market. So whenever you want to opt the cloud, you need to decide what type of application you want to run. If you want to run a website, then you just go for the platform as service provider. The platform as service providers are the Google App Engine, or you may run the same workload on the MS Azure, or you may run the same workload on the AWS as well, right? So benefit of cloud, if so, as you know, we know the popular example of the university result. See, in earlier days, what has happened? In earlier days, when the result comes out, right? So I suppose earlier days the result used to come out at the 12 o'clock. So university people used to basically deploy the result into their web servers, right? And those web servers basically used to deliver the result to the students, right? Well, what has happened that time? So at that time, when the 12 o'clock has जब भी 12 बजता था, so at that moment the server used to be stuck because the channel capability of those servers were up to 100 or 200 users only, and at the same time thousands of people used to try to access the server. So everyone, so basically it used to make the congestion into the channel. So that's why everyone was not able to see the result, right? Nowadays it won't happen. Why not happen? Because of the cloud. What has happened? If the number of user increases, right? If number of user increases, it automatically increase the bandwidth. It automatically increase the CPU size, memory size, or the storage size. And when there are no user, it automatically decrease the CPU size, memory size, and the bandwidth. That is called as an auto scaling, right? So cloud computing basic. Yes, ma'am.
Bhushan sir, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you.
Yes,
You are
ma'am.
changing your slides or not?
I am not changing now. I changed.
Okay, you're not changing. Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah. So because of cloud, basically all the emerging technologies, right, used to be work onto the cloud, like a big data analytics. So if you deploy a in-house or the on-premises servers, which will cost you more. But if you deploy the same big data analytics solution over the cloud computing, which will be very economical, very cost effective, right? Because in the cloud, everything is readily available. So you need not have to pay for the hardware. You need not have to pay for the software. If you go for the cloud computing, everything is readily available. Just go to the cloud service provider's website, create the application, whatever you want to run. So it will basically, when you run the application, it at the background, it allocates the CPU memory, as well as the networking or IO devices to that particular application and runs the application. So scalability is very important. That means the biggest benefit of the cloud computing. So as I said, the cloud is basically compatible with each and every technology. Like a big data analytics, cloud is used. Machine learning nowadays, so machine learning basically runs on the big data, right? So you can say machine learning basically, you can run the machine learning algorithms on the cloud itself. You might have heard about the Google Colab, where you can run the deep learning application. So in the deep learning, we need basically GPUs, right? So in the physical environment, if you buy a GPU, the GPUs are very expensive. The cost of GPU is very expensive. You can buy it, right? So that's why if you want to do it on the cloud, so we have basically IBM as well as the Google Colab Cloud, on which basically you may get the GPUs, readily available GPUs, and on the top of those GPUs you can run your application. So that's why cloud is compatible with big data. It is mostly used with the big data analytics application. It used with the machine learning application. It used with the deep learning applications, right? As well as you might have heard about the quantum computing, right? So quantum computing can't be done in the local machine. You must have the stronger processes there. So the cloud is basically in the IBM also we have the ready-made quantum computing cloud, where you can deploy your quants onto the cloud, and you can do the processing job over there. So similar to that, cloud is basically we are also basically related with the IoT also, right? So there is a strong association between cloud and the IoT. So as I said, cloud means what? The huge amount of processing power, which has a huge amount of processing power, huge amount of storage, huge amount of network bandwidth is there in the cloud. And what is IoT? IoTs are nothing but the sensors. So when you place the sensor, you need to flow the data. And to flow the data, you can select the cloud as an background. You can select a cloud as a channel to flow the data from your device to the application, or application to the device. So to application to device or device to application, that data has to be flowed very fast. And to flow that data very fast, you can go for the cloud computing, right? Because every cloud computing platform has a built-in CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. The minimum bandwidth provided by Content Delivery Network is starts from 2 GB and end at the 1 terabyte, 2 Gbps to 1 Tbps. You can't imagine 1 Tbps bandwidth. We are using 1 Mbps to Mbps internet speed at our home. But quickly, I'm going to create one virtual machine on AWS platform, where I'm going to show you that virtual machine get minimum 2.5 Gbps of bandwidth free of cost, right? So this is what the cloud is, where you get the immense power of the computing network as well as the storage, right? So cloud enabled IoT means what? Why cloud enabled IoT? Because the IoT cloud is found to be a very best platform, very perfect platform for each and every type of application, which can deliver the immense that means which may deliver the uh, huge processing power, huge computing power, along with the network as well as the IO, as well as the processing power, compute, storage, network. All three powers are delivered by the cloud, and these powers are required for the IoT itself, because IoT platform, IoT CPUs are much more basically lighter than the cloud CPU. So that's why we used to deploy the IoT application onto the cloud, which is called cloud enabled IoT. So when you deploy a IoT application on the cloud, so basically cloud provides you the encrypted channel. First, it basically provides you encrypted channel between the IoT device and the application where data is being flowed, as well as the channel size would be very high. That means very huge. Why very huge? Because it basically connect your IoT application with the CDN, Content Delivery Network. And the Content Delivery Network basically provides you a huge amount of channel. Starts from the 2 Gbps to 1 Tbps and all, right? So these are what the few points related to the cloud enabled IoT, right? So if you have you can use constant IoT devices. Basically, constant IoT devices are readily available in the cloud. That means limited resources, right? So because of cloud computing, the cloud capability capabilities which are delivered to the IoT are, first one, it provides you the seamless communication. The advantages of cloud for the IoT. First one, it provides you seamless communication. Because when you deploy a IoT application over the cloud, it basically creates an encrypted channel between your cloud device, IoT device, and the IoT application, right? And the communication from device to cloud and cloud to devices with the encrypted channel, with the encrypted P2P channel, right? So seamless communication is one of the advantage of the cloud computing for the IoT. Second, as I said, in the cloud, we have the resource pool. What is resource pool? Resource pool means what? The pool of resources. So as I said, if you want to suppose run an application which requires a 100 GB of RAM, 100 GB of RAM can't be inserted into the physical machine, but 100 GB of RAM is readily available in the cloud. So you get the unlimited resource power, compute, storage, network, all types of powers is being provided by the cloud, and it is very it is economical, right? The cost is very cheap. Why it is cheap? Because you just have to pay what you are using. If you use the cloud for IoT, suppose cloud application running, IoT application running on cloud for suppose 5 minutes, just pay for 5 minutes. Need not have to purchase anything, right? And after 5 minutes, you can release the resources. Once you release it, the billing will stop and just have to pay what you used, right? So it provides you the seamless communication. It provides you unlimited resources, right? Then the basically the cloud has built-in analytics and the visualization, and through analytics and visualization you can basically monitor what is the performance, what is the running performance of the IoT device, right? How much CPU power it has consumed, how much memory it has consumed. So everything is analytically visualized by the cloud platform, right? So meaningful insights are provided by the cloud computing platform which are built in into the cloud, right? And it has basically all the cloud platforms are basically support the REST API, right? So REST means what? Representational state transfer, and the IoT applications basically runs over the REST APIs only. So REST APIs of the IoT applications are compatible with the REST APIs of the IoT. So that's why it facilitates the faster application development. You can very easily and very efficiently develop the application for the IoT, because the both of the technology support the API, which are the application programmer interface, right? And the common APIs are the REST APIs, are the REST API or the SOAP based API. Both the types of APIs are basically supported by the IoT as well as the cloud. And finally, as you know, cloud runs over the virtualization, right? So it allows you to manage the virtual things, as well as you can basically put an access control policies. So virtual means what? Whenever you deploy a IoT application over the cloud platform, it creates a virtual network. So virtual network basically allows you to create the different virtual devices, right? So cloud has a built-in SDN. All right, cloud has built-in SDN. For example, OpenStack. OpenStack has a networking component called as a Neutron. So Neutron is compatible to run the OpenFlow. OpenFlow is the SDN protocol. So what that SDN does? SDN is a software-defined network. So what SDN does? So SDN has the NFV. That NFV allows you to convert your switch to router, router to hub, hub to firewall, right? So you can basically you will use the devices like a switches, hub, router as in connected devices, and you basically take those devices at the application layer and make those devices as per your usage. So you can convert your switch to gateway, your gateway to firewall. You can convert your firewall gateway to router, or router to switch, whatever you want. That can be done using the virtual thing. So virtual thing and management allows you to do the network function virtualization, as well as it provides you, if you make this switch as a firewall, you can basically virtually write the access control policies. You can basically write the access identity and access management policies, right? So everything is managed by the cloud platform itself. So that's why cloud is found to be a better solution to run the IoT, right? Not only IoT, it allows you to run the big data as well, right? This is what the example is: standalone PC to the cloud. So in earlier days, the standalone computers were there, which was used to run the application. As you might have seen in the IT industries or in most of the colleges also, we used to have the server rooms where all the servers used to be placed, and every server basically was responsible for running the application, right? One of the server might be used for running the web server, second server might be used for running the file servers, third one might be used for running the websites, right? So likewise, we used to run the different servers for running the different applications, right? Nowadays you won't see any server room in the colleges or in the industries, because all those applications which were there in the physical servers nowadays are running over the cloud, Why over the cloud? Because it is a cost effective. You need not have to pay for the hardware. You need not have to pay for the software. Everything is readily available over that particular cloud platform, right? So nowadays it becomes a history to use the servers. Everything is deployed over the cloud. This is what the second phase is, web application development, where the HTTP protocol was developed to access the application from the remote server. This is what the third phase, where all those applications used to be virtualized into the virtual servers over the cloud. And now this is what the fourth phase, where these applications, IoT applications, are deployed over the cloud, right? So cloud means what? Resource aggregation, resource pools are there, and it provides you the unlimited processing power, unlimited storage power, as well as unlimited networking power. By using that, you can deploy any kind of application over that. And the IoT is found to be compatible with the cloud, where the IoT sensors are placed at the remote site, and those sensors basically collect the data, and those data is flowed from the IoT application. Those data is flowed from the IoT devices to the IoT application for getting the further insights. And the channel used for flowing the data for IoT is being provided by the cloud, because it provides you the higher bandwidth, higher processing power, higher computing power, higher storage power, and higher networking power to the application. Right here we can see the new challenges are nowadays we are using IoT, right? IoT is compatible with cloud computing, right? And basically we integrate the big data together. So if you see most of the application, for example, let us take an example of the Ola, right? Ola or the Uber booking, right? So Ola Uber booking means what? The Ola driver used to keep the mobile with the GPS connection in his car, right? Through which you can trace out the location. And basically the geospatial maps are there, the maps are there. So those maps are basically stored by the Google server, right? So Google server provides you the map, and basically those maps are stored into the big tables of the Google Cloud. So Google Cloud has a big table. Those big tables are used for storing the maps, and through a map basically you can select the start location, end location, and the sensors are there. The sensors basically provides you the actual location of your car, and where cloud is used. So cloud basically, in that moment, the cloud is used for basically providing the bandwidth, end-to-end bandwidth between the map and the your system. As well, it is used for storing the data means which data? Your maps, your start location, end location, customers data, everything is being stored by the cloud, right? So cloud is basically responsible for providing the computing, storage, and the networking power to any kind of application, including big data, including machine learning, deep learning, or the IoT based application. So IoT and big data is one of the buzzword now, right? Because earlier days, big data used to be run onto the Hadoop, and we basically used to run the Hadoop jobs onto the local clusters. That means the local server. But those local servers were expensive, because you need to have a high-end servers to run the Hadoop, right? Right. If you have a that means basically Hadoop supports the commodity hardware as well. But if you use the commodity hardware, will give the degraded performance. So that's why we used to use the high-end servers to run the big data. But if you have a big data, if you have a big data with the if you have a stored big data or the big data. So for the stored big data, the traditional or the on-premises servers are basically efficient. But if you have a stream data, like stream data means what? The data which is generated on this in the stock market, or in the weather's websites, or any of the transactional website. So where we can't predict the size of the data, that is called big data. So for the streamed application or the live application, we used to use the cloud for running the big data application, and where IoT is used. So I can tell you one example I have already explained you. Suppose I have a wearable device in my hand, right? So that wearable device continuously track the heart rate as well as blood pressure, track my blood pressure, heart rate, as well as other health related counting, right? So I have a cloud application. I have a website which is deployed in the cloud, right? And in that website or in that application, I have written the code where I'll just monitor the threshold. So I defined the normal range there. The blood pressure should be between 90 to 120, right? So my wearable device continuously track the reading of blood pressure, and just check it whether and I basically assign the interval also. So for after every interval, it takes the reading and store that into the database. So database is basically basically handled by the big data. That is a big database where we continuously store the readings, right? So those big databases are basically used for storing the continuous reading of your heart rate, your blood pressure, and all, right? So as soon as your threshold goes over or the goes under, right? Then immediately it basically uses a SNS service, simple notification service, to notify the healthcare professionals through an SMS. Okay, well, this person has this. These are the threshold values he has crossed, and that means this automation system is basically available in the United States also. So once it goes beyond or once it go under the threshold value, it immediately send the notification to the ambulance, send notification to the doctors and all, so that they'll get ready, right? And immediately upon that, so how it runs basically, at the background cloud is there. So cloud has a built-in SNS, that is a notification engine. It has a built-in maps, it has a built-in GPS things. The GPS servers are there through which track the location of the ambulance, track the location of the doctors. Everything is perfectly matched, and the nearest hospital gets contacted and the patient gets admitted there. So this kinds of application runs in the healthcare item. I'm going to show you in Amazon. Not going to take too much time into the theory. Let me go a little bit fast, right? Because we are running short of time. I want to show you Amazon ka portal where these IoT things are can be done, right? So technical aspects, basically it basically collect the huge amount of data and stored into the big tables, right? And it is data is increasingly everywhere with the many formats, right? So the advantage of big data is it supports a many format: audio, video, text file, images. The traditional databases used to use only textual files, textual databases only, right? Like a SQL allows you to store data in a text format, but this big databases like a Hadoop allows you to store data in various formats in a unstructured data. With the unstructured means what? Audio, video, images, JSON, BSON, compressed file, anything can be stored into the databases. Let us go a little bit high. I'm going to share these slides with you, right? And cloud considering IoT. So data stored in the cloud, then data follows you on your devices. So this is what the example I just explained, right? So you store the data into the cloud, right? And big tables are there. Big tables means what? A big data analytics. So what that big data analytics does? So big data analytics basically has the constant, the checking of threshold value is being handled by the big database. And big data basically communicate with the cloud, and through a cloud it sends an SNS, simple notifications to all the intended people, right? We'll go fast. So combining cloud and the IoT. So if you combine the cloud, if you basically integrate the IoT application into the cloud, then what will happen? So it can be used to support the required resources to increasing the heterogeneous objects. It can be used to meet the dynamic computational need. That means the advantages of cloud for the IoT, right? So it can be used to meet the dynamic computational need of the environmental applications like a sensor or the network technology. Then cloud can work on behalf of the object, right? I'll go little fast. Key features of the IoT on cloud. So the first is the resource constraint object, that is, it provides you the flexibility of the resource allocated for the IoT applications. It gives you the intelligent applications because cloud itself has a many IoT things. So those has the intelligence, that those application has the intelligence. I'm going to show you Amazon Web Services where you'll see, observe everything. Energy saving, it is energy saving. There is no on-site infrastructure. Then heterogeneity of the smart environment, scalability, agility. So these all are the advantages of cloud for IoT, right? This is what the diagram where you can see the IoT cloud has been depicted. At the bottom we have the hardware layer, right? Where the devices are, you can see you can basically have the different devices, IoT devices, like we have the attached devices to the human, or we may have the objects along with the sensors, remote monitoring sensors, information devices, contents. Those all these sensors are connected to the ubiquitous access or the seamless connectivity engine. And this engine is basically connected to the cloud. In the cloud, the bottommost layer is the hardware as the virtualization layer. The virtualization layer basically provides you the virtual CPU, virtual storage, virtual memory, virtual IO, right? So these virtual resources are there which can use for controlling the application, transporting the data, computing or processing the information, or storing the data, as well as allows you to storage the resources. So these are the resources which you can access through the virtual resource layer. And this virtualization layer basically composed of three basic layers, right? By the NIST standard, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. So depends on the type of application you are running onto the IoT platform. It can be delivered through the platform as service, or it may get delivered through the software service, or it may get delivered as an infrastructure as a service. right? And we have the cloud, client, or we have the smart services where the website can be accessed using the REST API. So here we have used to use the REST APIs to access this entire platform, right? So IoT using the distributed load, you can see, right? Public domain, network domain. So different domains are there. Your local domain is there where the home automation devices are connected through a Wi-Fi. These Wi-Fi devices are getting connected to the ISP's network. That is a network domain. Then ISP is connected to the cloud management servers, which are on the public platform. And this platform used to provide the resources to the entire cloud to the IoT devices. Then Azure, I'm not going to show you the Azure IoT because I'll share the slides. So whatever things I want to show you onto the Amazon Web Services, how much time is left? 15 minutes are remaining, right? So whatever things I want to show you here in the Windows Azure, so same things you will see in the Amazon Web Services as well. So I'm just closing the sites, closing these PPTs because I have another 15-20. So this is what the dashboard of the Microsoft Azure. Then the IBM Watson's dashboard is also there. I want to demonstrate the application of Amazon or Amazon EC2, how to, that means, deploy the IoT application, and how to I have the I have already entered the credentials for the Amazon Web Services, right? So Amazon Web Services basically one of the biggest cloud in the world. So it has grabbed around 70% of cloud business. 70% of cloud business. So basically they provide you the free tier account. If you are a new user, you want to learn the cloud computing things, you can get it free of cost, right? So I'll just type here AWS free tier. I'll type AWS free tier. I'll just click on it. You could see here, right? You could see create a free account. You can create a free account, but remember that whenever you create an account, you have to basically provide your debit card details, right? You can see always free. So when you create a free tier account onto the Amazon platform, you get all the services free. Most of the services, all the services free, but they have the bound, right? You get all the services free for 12 months, 12 months free, right? And most of the professional, the production, or the oftenly used services are the based on the trial basis, right? But whatever you want to do with the IoT, those things are see. So here you can see you get the EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud free of cost for 750 hours. So 750 hours per month, that comes around. So in the entire month we have this. If you have a 30 days ka month, then 750 hours comes to the 30 days. So 30 days free over here. Then if you want to store something onto the cloud, you will get 5 GB free of cost, 5 GB storage. You may get the 750 hours of database per month. This is 12 month. This is for per month, right? Per month. Here you can see per month 750 hours. Per month, this is 5 GB. That is 5 GB means for the 12 month. Then 750 hours for the 12 months. You just have to see whatever they are providing. If you see your IoT, Internet of Things, so if I click over here IoT, so here I have the IoT event. So whenever I run the IoT application onto the cloud, it generates an event. It basically generates an event notification. So what is notification? Notifications are attached to the SNS, simple notification service, which basically sends an notification to the doctors, ambulance, wherever you want to deliver the notification. So likewise, you can deliver 250 SMS, 2,500 messages per month. 2,500 messages per month, right? If you want to send, nowadays we used to get the promotional messages for many of the companies. So now, so they used to use the SNS service, same SNS service, because they get 2,500 SMS free of cost per month from the Amazon Web Services. Then IoT Thing Graph is an analytics. Basically, it is an analytical platform which show you the performance of the application graphically. Then we have the IoT device management. So you can use the 50 remote actions per month is free. If you are performing any remote action through the cloud, those 50 remote actions per month are free in this account. Then data, right? So we have already seen 250K, that is a 2,500 messages are published or delivered per month. Greengrass basically provides you 3 Amazon Web Services devices like a Raspberry Pi or Arduino. Those kinds of controllers are readily available in the IoT platform. Those you can use to simulate, and you can basically deploy it into the cloud. So these things are free of cost. If you want to create your account, you just click on create a free account. Once you click on create free account, you have to basically provide a email ID, and then after providing email ID, it will ask you a debit card number. Do not worry. Once you will successfully enter your debit card number over here, it will deduct only 2 rupees from your account for the entire year. For the entire year. But you must be careful while selecting the services. For example, if I want to launch a virtual machine using EC2, so whenever I launch the virtual machine, right? So whenever I want to launch a virtual machine, I have to basically use I have to basically check whether the free tier is available with that particular account or not. Free tier eligible, right? So it takes the 24. I just enabled my account, so 24 hours to fully activate the things. So it may take the time. So here I want to show you. So this is what the dashboard of AWS is. This is what the dashboard. This is called dashboard of AWS or AWS Management Console. So basically, cloud provides everything for every type of application. So as I said, let us see here. Here we have the build a solution, launch a virtual machine. I'll just click on see more, right? Right. So this is what my first section. This is for the compute. I can build a website within a fraction of second. You can see here, right? If you want to create a virtual machine means what? Suppose I want to create a virtual computer. So as I said, suppose I want to run an application. Suppose that application requires suppose 100 GB of RAM. So to create 100 GB of RAM, I can't insert into physical machine. So I can create a virtual machine over here, right? Within a within a 2 minutes, I can create a virtual machine. And when I'll create a virtual machine, I'll get the credentials like a username and password of that virtual machine. And on the top of virtual machine, I can run my application which requires 100 GB of RAM. Once I'll shut down that machine, my billing will stop. Right? My billing will stop, and it is very cost effective. It is very cost effective. You can see, you can type here AWS pricing. So insert type AWS pricing calculator, right? In INR, cost per month in INR. So we have two plans over here. First one is the pay per use plan, another one is the pay as you go plan. So pay as you go means what? Pay as you go is the basically like a if you use it for one pay per second plan. If you use it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depends on that, it will charge you. So compute Amazon EC2. If I select the EC2 over here, this is what the free tier is. In the free tier, 750 hours is free. But if you do not want to go for the free tier, then they have the different plans over here. Pay per second, you can see here pay per second will, right? So if you use it for 1 second, you have to pay around 3 paisa, 4 paisa like that. AWS pricing calculator. I have just selected that. So calculator.aws is the website. So I want to select what I want to select. I want to select the see the here they have the estimate of your AWS spend also. You can select that, right? So create estimate. So what I want to use, I want to basically use the EC2, right? So I'll configure EC2, and suppose I want to click estimate. What estimate I want? How many CPUs you want? So in the physical computer, how many CPUs we can use? If you have a Core i3, we can use at most 3 CPUs. If you have Core i5, we can use 5 CPUs. If you have Core i7, we can use 7 CPUs. But here, how many CPUs I can use? I can use 100 CPU. 100 CPU. In the physically, how much RAM you can insert? In the physical computer, you can maximum insert 64 GB of RAM. 64 GB of RAM. I want 10,000 GB of RAM. I can type here, right? I can type here, or 1000 GB of RAM. This is what 1000 memory in GB, 1000 GB of RAM, right? So if I select the CPU size 100 CPU with 1000 GB of RAM, here what the operating system is, I just have to select what operating system I want, Windows, Linux, whichever operating system you want, just select that, right? And along with that, add requirement, anything else you want, you can add the storage, right? Add requirement. Then this is what for the GPU, CPU. I want to run the deep learning application. Deep learning application requires suppose 10 GPUs. I can use the 10 GPUs also, right? So it is based on the basically for the Linux instance, it is not supported, right? So I can't select the GPUs over here. So let it be. I'll select the ECUs over here, right? Then you can see here how much the cost would be, right? Here you could see hourly cost is 13 rupees, right? If I create, see how cost effective it is. If I create a virtual machine with 100 CPU with 1000 GB of RAM along with the 10 ECUs, I just have to pay 13 rupees per hour. Or if I go for the yearly plan, then I have to pay 8 rupees per hour. 8 rupees 2 paisa per hour along with the operating system. So it is very cheaper. You need not, and here if I deploy it, I need not have to pay anything. Once I'll stop my virtual machine, once I'll stop my operating system, my billing will stop, and that much amount I just have to pay, right? But remember over here that once you deploy something, you do not forget to release it. And this is what the pricing strategy. If you select it for 1 year, so for 1 year you have to pay 8 rupees. If I go for 3 year na, it will come down to 4 rupees. It will come down to 4 rupees, 3 rupees or 4 rupees, right? Here you can see 4.288, right? So this is what the pricing is. So that's why everyone try to use the AWS for the application. Let me show you the IoT part, what IoT is. So you have the connect and IoT device, right? So if you have the IoT sensors, if you have a ready-made IoT application ready, then what you can do, you can connect your IoT device to the cloud. So I'll click on connect to IoT device. I'm not able to do it because I am not my active account gets activated, will get activated in 24 hours. So I would not be able to show you, but I'll send you the screenshots of this process so that you can do practice at your home, right? So this is what the compute section is, where you can create the virtual machine, you can build the web application, you can deploy the virtual servers, or you can connect the IoT devices. So if you have a ready-made IoT devices, so instead of assigning a private IP address, you can connect that device with the public IP address, and the public IP address would be provided by the Amazon itself. So just assign the public IP address to your IoT device so that that device would be controlled through the IoT cloud. Now, what are the different IoT? What are the, so these are what the domains supported by the Amazon Web Services. It supports the DevOps, it supports the machine learning, it supports the big data analytics, it supports distributed database, it supports the storage, it supports the website, web apps, right? Suppose I want all services. So here we have the different services. Just see the we have only 4-5 minutes. So compute mate provides the EC2 to create and run virtual machines, Lightsail to run the websites. AWS Lambda is there, which basically provides you the this is called serverless computing, which basically provides you instances to run your application. Batch processing, Benchtalk for the platform as service. This is for the quantum computing, which is called Amazon Bracket. For satellite communication, there is a ground station. And these are what the security features. Why the Amazon Web Services is so much popular? Because they are keen about the security. They have very hardbound security in their cloud platform. IAM stands for identity and access management. So in the IAM, you can create the access list where you will define from your organization who are allowed to access the IoT application and who are not allowed. As well as you can define what role is being provided to that particular person, whether that person would be an administrator, would get the privilege to access the admin portal, or that means you can define the privileges into the IAM. Then we have a RAM, resource access manager. That means you can define how many times that person can access that resource. That is been basically provided by the resource access manager. IBM Cognitive is another component which basically create and credentials for the different federated applications. If you have one application Google, second application on Salesforce, you can integrate together into the SAML and then provide the credentials for the every application. This is what guard duty used in the IoT, and this guard duty is used for the threat detection, intelligent threat detection. So in the guard duty, the virus malware definition has been basically updated every day. Based on the malware's name, it basically deny that particular service to be entered into the IoT platform. Then Amazon Massey is there, which is basically used for the storing the business critical contents into the secured servers. Single sign-on, you can use the single username password for your multiple services. For example, we have the Google YouTube, we have the Google Maps, we have the Facebook, we have the YouTube, Gmail. So for all the Google services, we used to use Google Classroom. For every application, we used to all the application we use a single username password. So that is possible because of the SSO stands for single sign-on. The single username password is allowed to be used for multiple applications. So as I said, certificate identity is there for your website. So if you want to deploy a TLS certificates, transport level certificate, you can go for the certificate manager. Key management service used for creating public and private keys for your IoT application, right? Then we have, this is called as a hardware security models. So you can deploy. So if you want your service system should be enabled through a hardware device. So you can, once you plug that device, then your device gets enabled. Otherwise, it gets locked. So it's possible because of the cloud HSM. Right, so these all are the components used for AWS Firewall Manager. This is what the software firewall, right? Central management of firewall rules. This is a software firewall provided by the AWS for IoT. Let us go to the IoT section now. This is what the compute for processing. So compute provides you the processing power to your application, right? Then we have the storage to store the IoT data. Storage for store the IoT data. S3 stands for simple storage service, so which is very cheaper. Then so there is a S3 Glacier. Glacier is basically cheaper than the S3, which is used for archiving the data. So the cost of S3 is $0.001 per GB. $0.001 per GB. Cost of S3 is $0.01 per GB, and the validity of data storage is lifetime. Validity would be lifetime. Similarly, let us see the segment of IoT over here. So these are the components. So why I'm telling why cloud computing? Because cloud computing provides the ready-made platform for machine learning. You can see deep learning and machine learning. Everything is available. Ready-made platform for the big data analytics. You can see here. This is what the AMR Elastic MapReduce. This is what the platform for the ready-made platform for the big data analytics. This is what the ready-made platform for the IoT. If you want to run an application over the RTOS, free RTOS is being provided as a virtual machine. IoT core is there, right? So IoT core is used for connecting your device, your sensors, your devices to the cloud. Then we have the IoT click. So this click allows you to deploy the Lambda function to the simple devices. As I showed you the Lambda there, which basically allocate the instance to your application. This analytics basically depict everything, everything into the with the graph representation. Graphically will depict the analytics of each and every device. And there is a device defender to basically protect your devices. Device managements are basically used for checking whether device is enabled, disabled, activated, deactivated. Everything can be monitored at the center place using the IoT device management. Then this is for the event. If you want to write any threshold or trigger, you can use the IoT event. Using IoT event, if the reading goes beyond the threshold value, it will generate a notification and will get sent to the particular desired entity. Then Greengrass is basically very popular in the industries nowadays, because Greengrass allows you to deploy the application and run the application entirely into the cloud platform. So you need not have to deploy the web servers. Everything is integrated into the Greengrass, right? Then if you have a multiple sites for the IoT devices, you can manage using the site wise. And finally, IoT graph to depict the performance of devices using the, so graph is there. And the analytics. So graph analytics are used for depicting the performance of your devices graphically onto the Amazon. So this is what the Amazon platform is and how you can protect. So this is what the security section. So through the security section, you can manage the security of each and every IoT device by means of authentication. So to make this stronger authentication, we have the secret manager. Then we have the authorization using the IAM. Then third one, if you want to manage the private public key, we have the key management service. If you want to provide a single username password for all the IoT device, IoT application, you can go for AWS SSO. If you want to provide access to your IoT device using by means of providing certificate manager is there. Firewall to check the packet flow, the packets flowing to your IoT application, and the packets which are going away from the IoT application can be managed by the AWS firewall manager, and so on. So this is what the separate segment of security is provided by every cloud platform for the IoT, and these are what the built-in applications provided by the, and so these applications are same kind of applications are there in the Azure as well, Microsoft Azure, and same kind of applications are there in the IBM Bluemix as well. IBM Bluemix is the public cloud platform for the public cloud platform for the IaaS, and it also has the Internet of Thing support of Internet of Thing application. So I think my time is up. So anyone has any question? Would you like to ask any question from the participants? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So there is one question from the participant.
Huh?
They want to ask about who manages the security solution with respect to IoT device.
Yes.
End users are manufacturer.
So in that case, the security is managed by the system administrator, right? System administrator means what? Who basically manage the IoT devices. So if I am an administrator, so I would get access to this AWS portal, and here itself I can define the security. Here itself I can define the security and security levels by means of various levels. I can deploy it with the multiple level. For example, if I want to if I want to provide a MFA for the application, MFA for the multi-factor authentication, right? So just let me show you over here, MFA, right? So if I want to use the MFA, that is a multi-factor authentication. That means what? I'll define what type of security I want to provide to the cloud application. I'll provide MFA stands for multi-factor authentication. So along with the password, it will ask you to use the OTP on the mobile, or it may ask you to verify using your thumbnail, right, thumbprint, or it may ask you to verify authenticate by means of your iRetina. So that can be, this is called multi-factor authentication. So if you use any cloud platform, it gives you a freedom to control your devices as well as secure your devices by means of various security standards. Any other question is there, ma'am?
No, thank you so much, sir. So this
Yeah.
is the question. Yeah, so thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so
Yeah.
much, ma'am, for giving me opportunity to talk on this.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Right, I would
actually, we
like
are
to show
very
you.
grateful.
Yeah. I had
we are very
basically a
grateful
very
for the time and efforts that you have
no,
taken, sir.
no, ma'am. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for Amazon Web Services. Basically, very economical, right? Because Amazon Web Service basically very cheaper. As I said, it runs on the pay per second, and it's a very bigger platform. That's why it provides the services. It provides the services economically. So if you compare Amazon Web Services with the other providers, the turnover of Amazon is equal to the total turnover of Google Cloud Platform plus the total turnover of Microsoft Azure plus total turnover of Salesforce plus total turnover of IBM. So the total turnover of these four companies multiplied by 2 is equal to the 1 year turnover of the Amazon Web Services. So you can imagine how big platform it is. So as it's a big platform, they take care of security, and they are basically, if you see, the 70% of industry used to use only Amazon Web Service. They used to trust only Amazon Web Services as an cloud service provider, and it's very cheaper. As I said, if you want to start with the cloud, that means if you want to start deploying the things onto the cloud, just go for the Amazon Web Services, create your account using the debit card, and select the free tier account. You get 1 year free of cost cloud. Free of cost, you can deploy everything onto the Amazon Web Services. So of course, Amazon is the best choice for the applications.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much for a wonderful session. I'm sure the participant has gained a lot of technical knowledge about IoT and cloud security. Once again, thank you so much, and please accept this memento as a token of appreciation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I look forward to conduct another workshop. That means in future also I'll be very interested to conduct this kind of sessions, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Can I
Dear
leave
participant,
this? Yeah.
yes, yeah, sure, sir. Dear participant, feedback link is posted in the chat box. Please fill it.